Hey creatives, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nele and I make videos about bullet journaling and creativity. However, today I have a bit of a different video for you because I want to sit down with you guys and chat a bit about basically end of the year reflection and New Year's resolutions or goals. Before we start with this, I want to say that this is nothing that you can see as an ultimative guide on how to reflect or set goals. I just want to share my experiences and learnings, my ideas and thoughts about these things, and I hope that I can inspire you, that I can give you a bit of a new perspective, or that you just find something in this video that resonates with you. Because I think that I've seen a lot of videos like this where people would tell you this is how you do it, this is how you become successful, this is how you achieve everything you want, and I just had to learn it like the hard way that this is not what works for me. So I just really want to point out with this video that everyone's different. Everything that I say that works for me doesn't have to work for you, that you don't have to find that useful or helpful, or yeah, things might work or work not for you, and that's totally fine. Yeah, as I said, I just want to share a bit of inspiration and ideas, and I hope something for you is in this video. Yeah, so let's begin. I guess it makes sense to separate this video into two parts, and obviously the first part we're talking about is going to be the reflection part, and after that we jump to the New Year's resolutions or goals. If you've seen any of my past videos about bullet journaling, you might have realized that reflection is kind of an important thing to me. It is a big part of my life, and I do that mostly because it helps me to understand myself and my life, and it gives me a way to deal with my feelings and thoughts a bit better. It is not so much about becoming the best version of myself or anything like that. To me, it's just the tool that I use to understand me, which sometimes can be quite hard, I guess. Over the past years, I found also that reflection has always kind of helped me to discover and see things faster and more easily, if that makes sense, like finding out what works and what doesn't for me, just as an example. And so I do my reflection most of the time on a monthly basis, where I would ask myself a couple of questions, and whenever I needed to, I would write down like a diary entry in my bullet journal, or at the moment I bought myself a dedicated diary just for that, so I can write down stuff freely without thinking about space or whatever. And this is what I do every month. And so in this video, I just want to talk about the reflection that you can do at the end of a year or whenever you need it, so that you can look back at the past months and what happened, and let's talk about that. So why reflect at the end of the year? Of course, it doesn't have to be the end of the year that you sit down and ask yourself questions and look at your life. It can be at any point. You can do that whenever you feel like you have to, or you need to, or you want to. So for me, the end of the year is like the time where I like to slow down, take things a bit more chilled, and reflect on what happened in the last 12 months, because to me that just comes kind of natural with how winter is here in northern Germany, but also just like it fits the vibe with coziness and just wanting to cuddle on the couch, and also just looking back and looking at my own life. So also I changed my bullet journal at the end of the year, and with changing that, moving into a new bullet journal, I like to look back on what happened, and I also look at what do I want to keep, what do I want to take into the new year. And so this is always a really nice reason to just sit down and reflect. So how can you reflect? I think there are actually tons of inspirations and questions that you can find online on whatever platform, and you can just choose whatever feels right for you. I want to give you some inspiration and ideas here, and you can pick whatever you feel is a good question for you, what might help you, or what feels just right. And as I said before, some of them might work for you, some might not, and that's totally fine. So I like to start my reflection with asking myself some questions that I would write down and answer in my bullet journal, since I usually have a lot of space left at the end of the year. If you want to do it in your bullet journal but running out of pages, you could maybe write it down on a piece of paper, glue an envelope in your bullet journal, or put that in the back pocket of your notebook. You could of course write in any other notebook as well, on just a simple piece of paper, put it somewhere where you can find it, or if you're more the type for that, you could write it in an online document and even add things over the next weeks or whatever. But going back to the questions, I will just read them out for you and not explain them too much, because I believe they are pretty self-explanatory by themselves. So yeah, pick whatever you find good. How did the last year feel for me? What did I feel? What did change? What changes have been good? What were the highlights? What challenges did I face? What am I proud of? What could have been or worked out better? What did I do differently compared to the years before? What did I learn? What am I thankful for? What do I want to take into the new year? And what do I want to change in the next year? Maybe you might find that you answer some of the questions in the same way. To me, that just helps to get a very clear picture of the answers and a really good feel of how the last year went. And in general, I would say that asking yourself questions with a positive tendency, with a positive outcome, can be good, to not focus so much on the bad that happens. But on the other hand, I also believe that if you look at the negative things and feelings, that is really where you can see that you grew, and also really feel the changes in yourself and in your life. And even if it's something negative or something that doesn't feel very happy to you, it's just also how we can learn to accept that life is not always just happy and positive, that the negative sides are part of it as well, and that we have to somehow learn to live with them. The second thing that you can do is to look at areas of your life. And maybe if you're bullet journaling, you've heard of the level 10 life thing before. I'm honestly not such a huge fan of it, since I think it puts a lot of pressure on myself personally, and I don't like to feel like I have to be happy in every aspect of my life 24/7 every single day. But I think the idea of looking at areas of your life that are important to you and seeing how you could maybe just be a little more happy in these areas, or what you actually feel like you're missing, or what did make you really happy in them, can be quite helpful to see how you want your life to be actually. So personally, I like to look at some areas that are important to me and see how I feel about them, what has changed in them, and what I might need, what I would like to cancel, stuff like that. And you can obviously just choose anything that matters to you. I have a few examples here. Family, friends, relationships, job or business, health, hobbies, finances, home, fun, or traveling. And you can obviously add anything that is important to your life, because that is obviously just my view and what matters to me, kind of. And of course, last but not least, you could reflect on the goals you set for the last year. If you have a planner or bullet journal, you might do that, and it's definitely a good thing to look back and see how your goals went. I want to say at this point that you can, of course, use any different word for goals that might work better for you, because I know that goals, the word itself, can create some sort of pressure, some sort of uncomfortable feeling that you have to achieve them in order to be a good human being. So you could switch that word out for anything else, like ideas, wishes, intentions, plans, whatever feels good to you. I'm just using the word goals in the rest of the video just to make it easier to understand. So yeah, at this point you could just review your goals. If you have a planner, a bullet journal, or some sort of app, whatever, wherever you write down goals in the beginning of the year or at any point of the year, you could go back to them, look at them, and then ask yourself another couple of questions, which I will list again for you, because that's what we do in this video, obviously. So you could ask yourself, what goals did I achieve and how did I do that? What did I learn from achieving those goals? Did achieving them make me happy? What goals changed through the year? What became important instead, and what did become unimportant? And why is that? Am I still happy if I don't achieve my goals? And last but not least, how can I make sure to focus on the goals that are important to me? I guess there are tons of other questions that you can ask yourself when it comes to goals. This is what I came up with. Maybe that's helpful, maybe not, but I think when it comes to goals, questioning how and why can be quite helpful to see if things worked out in whatever way. So that brings us to the second part of this video. Let's talk about goals, finally. So maybe you're like me when it comes to goals. At the end of the year, you might have found yourself several times spending an incredibly amount of hours on watching videos like how to get your life together, how to set up for success, or videos like how to actually finally achieve your goals. Well, I've watched them all. And maybe you tried, like I did, every single method a human being could possibly think of to set goals the right way, to finally achieve them, to become the most best, successful, beautiful, happiest person ever. Well, and maybe you were just like me, always failing to do that. So yeah, after several years of doing exactly this, I came to two conclusions. The first one is that there is absolutely no one right way to set goals and achieve them, because everybody is freaking different, and that makes it nearly impossible to find the one right way. Whoever is selling you this is selling a lie. The second thing that I've learned is that maybe achieving every single goal or achieving goals at all is not the right goal. That maybe life is not about becoming the best versions of ourselves, to be happy in every aspect of our lives, to be the optimum, the always best version, the always higher, better, bigger, faster achieving person. Maybe that's just not what makes us happy in the end. And I also started to think that maybe it doesn't make us happy at all. Maybe it's more like an unhealthy thing. At least it seems to be for me. So yeah, as you heard now, I'm not really the person who achieves a lot of goals that I set for myself. And because that is so, and because I've learned all these things that I've just mentioned, I don't think I'm the qualified person to sit here and say this is how you set goals and this is how you achieve them. Because honestly, maybe when I'm being realistic, I achieve like 10% of my goals, which is 10% at least. Well, I guess I believe that if you achieve your goals or not depends on what person you are. And maybe you are a person who is really focused, who is good at achieving things, following plans, and that is good. But maybe you're like me and you're just not, and you are good with starting to plan and then get distracted and do something else, and this is how you do things, and that is totally fine. But if I think that setting goals is such an individual thing and might not even work for everyone, why do I keep doing it? And why do I still think it's a good thing to do? Well, I recently listened to the Bullet Journal Method audiobook, and there was this one sentence about goals which was basically like, goals give our lives direction. And honestly, I think that is true in some ways. Because I think the first step to adding meaning and maybe a bit more happiness to our lives is to reflect on it and see how things are going, how you're doing. And then the second step could be to figure out what you want, what your goals might be. And for me, goals are basically something that get me somehow excited, and that in this way make me want to get out of bed and start my day and do something to go in the direction that could possibly make me happy. So to sum up, goals for me are something that add a little meaning to my daily life and that could make me satisfied in some way. I also think it's adding a lot of pressure if you always think you have to be happy, because I just think the ultimate of happiness is also another lie that probably society and advertising is selling us every day. So I like to say, just maybe look for something that gets you excited, that could make you satisfied, that could make you feel good in some way, even if it's just a little bit, you get it. But even if you try to say these things in a way that doesn't come with a lot of pressure, I think it's still a frightening thing to go for it. But I also think that we are so trained to think we have to aim higher, we have to dream big and stuff like that. But honestly, you could just reach for small things like learning how to skate or whatever. It doesn't have to be a big life-changing goal. It can just add a little excitement. Learning how to cook, stuff like that. That is totally fine. And also I want to say that my goal isn't really to set goals just so I can achieve them and so I could say to myself, look what you've achieved this year. I'm definitely also not a person to sit down and create a master plan. I don't have any ideas about my 5-year plan in life, what will happen in the next 5 years. I don't even know what happens in the next 5 months or weeks, honestly. I just like to sit down and set these goals so I have a direction that I want to go for at the moment. And what would happen really a lot of times is that I would change the direction over and over again, that I will switch plans, switch goals, that things change all the time for me and I change all the time. And at the end I might have one goal that I achieved and 20 other things that have changed through the years. But I mean, that's in the end a way of going through life as well. You could change directions as many times as you need to, because this is your freaking life and you can do whatever you want, however you want, and no one else has to understand what you're doing. No one else has to look at your goals and say, you didn't achieve everything that you wanted, you're a bad human being. You're the only one to judge that, and you can look at your life, say, well, I've changed plans pretty often this year, but look where I am now. Anyway, I'm totally losing my point here. I didn't plan on talking about that so much, but well, we're just getting used to these videos, right? So back to the process. I like to sit down, review my goals, and while doing that, I ask myself a couple questions, write the answers down, you know how it goes. What do I really want? What were things I thought I wanted but turned out to be things I just thought I have to want? What do I imagine the next year to be like? What would make me happy and why? What do I want to continue working on? What are my values that are important to me? How can they support me with my goals? What do I want to go for at the moment? What can I do to achieve those things? What can I do to review my goals and adjust them if they change? So yeah, as I talked about enough in this video, but I just can't stop. Goals might change all the time and that is totally fine. Mine change all the time, as I said, I think in general that mainly the internet, but also self-help books, all that stuff, have like this toxic way of telling you that if you don't achieve your goals, then you're just failing, even if it's not really telling you that in your face. But I find that they often tell you that if you don't finish things as the best, the fastest, the most successful, and that if you quit on things, you're a failure, and that you're just basically not trying enough, that you don't want it enough, that you don't go for the right things, all that stuff. And to me, that's just honestly big bullshit. And I can clearly say that consuming all that stuff over the last years, it somehow had made me sick mentally, mainly, but it definitely had a pretty big and bad impact on me. And I think sticking to goals that had changed and that aren't really important anymore, and still going to them to avoid this feeling of being the failure that you might be then, it's just going nowhere. Like, would you do that for? For just the feeling of not failing? And in the end, you would achieve something that does not add any meaning, that does not have any meaning to you, and that doesn't make you happy anyway. So I honestly think that we have to open up and talk more about not achieving goals in this society that always tells you have to achieve a lot of stuff and always get the next big thing. And I also think that we should regularly ask ourselves if the goals that we are going for are truly ours. Especially when you're someone like me, when you're in this little bubble, when you're sitting down setting goals, then it can be definitely helpful to do that and reflect on yourself. Because if I personally hadn't done that, I would have never figured out that the things I was going for were not the things that I really wanted. Like, I did a lot of things that I thought I wanted, but that turned out to be just stuff that I've seen people do and that I thought I had to want as well, like getting the perfect job, aim for a lot of money, doing lots of sports to have the perfect body, and having the perfect 5 a.m. morning routine, while I obviously hate nothing else more than getting up at 5 a.m. And so yeah, just reflecting on that stuff and checking in with myself helped me so much to understand that this is nothing that I really want. This is just stuff that I think I want. But what to do? How to discover that you're not going for what you really want, and how to answer this question, what do I really want? That can be definitely hard. And I think maybe the only way, maybe not, because what do I know, to discover what you really want is to kind of stop consuming all the stuff that others do. I find that for me, watching all the stuff on social media, on YouTube, following people on Instagram who have it all got me to get away from myself and what I want even further with everything that I watched. I discovered that the self-help books do not really help me, that the coachings do not coach me how to be myself. And so I mainly stopped consuming and doing all these things and just tried to find to myself, and that is easier said than done. But I think if you do not look so much at what other people do, that's definitely helping to figure out what you want to do. And once again, that of course doesn't have to apply to you. Maybe you're totally immune to what you see other people do, and you can easily say, this is not for me, but this is, and if so, that's great. If you find other ways that help you, then go for them. Yeah, as I said, everyone's different, and things that work for me or that I've learned for myself don't have to apply to you. So after all this mainly negative goals talk, how to set goals then? I guess I can say that over and over again. This is just a list of ideas here, and that can be much longer probably. There are so many ideas out there. And I would highly recommend try stuff out and figure out what works for you, because you're the only one who can decide what is working, and you can change things over and over. Just try things out. But some ideas that you can set goals might be Writing down some manifestations or affirmations for the new year, like a general vibe or feeling that you want to keep in mind that you can go back to and remember. You could make a list of goals or a bucket list and not to take that too seriously. If it helps you, you could break down your goals into smaller steps, but if it doesn't, then don't do that because a lot of steps can be overwhelming. You could sort your goals, for example, in quarterly plans or into this year, next year long-term collections. You could make a maybe list if you're not sure if you really want to achieve this goal. You could go back to that list every once in a while and see if the things on it are still important to you or if you want to cross them off as not relevant anymore. And last but not least, you could create categories for your life and write down how you can feel better about them, like setting intentions, which would be a bit similar to the level 10 life thing, but without the pressure of achieving the highest level in all or any categories at all. I want to share some things that I've learned with the goal setting thing as well. And the first thing that I would highly recommend, especially for bullet journal users like I am, is to cross things off if they are not important anymore, if you don't want it anymore, because that feels so freaking great and relieving. I also had to learn to be a bit more realistic about goals. I don't mind writing down everything that I want, but at the same time I have this thing of being really unrealistic about what is doable in the time frame of a year. And I tend to think that I can achieve all these things that I want with a really little time frame, and that just leads to frustration and quitting a lot. But if I would be a little more realistic and just try to do a part of the goal in a little longer time, then that would maybe become a bit more successful. Also, a thing that is very helpful to me is to look at my values and figure out what is important to me. Just to set an example, if you have a value like free time, having a lot of free time, and you think about doing this new job opportunity that would take a lot of time but get a high payment, but you wouldn't have a lot of free time with that job, then you can look at your value, say, oh, well, free time was actually pretty high in my list of values. Maybe that job isn't the right thing at the moment. And also a thing that I've learned with starting this YouTube channel is to put my perfectionism aside. I would do this a lot with goals, to think that I have to achieve perfect results at the beginning, and this is just something that is basically impossible. If you start something new, you will have to learn and get better as you go. You don't start and are here. You start and you're somewhere here. And while you keep doing the stuff you want to do and achieve, you will slowly get better. So what I did with YouTube, for example, is to just start and not think I have to understand the editing program all at once. I just go step by step, do the stuff that I can do at the moment now, and learn as I go. And also I try to get better at doing voiceovers, at doing good camera shots, all that stuff as I go, and putting away the pressure of having the perfect outcome from the beginning on just helped me to stick to it, actually. Well, that was a kind of wild ride here about the goals. I'm sorry if this is a bit chaotic. That's just who I am, even with my notes. Maybe it's because I'm not wearing my glasses, kind of hard to read what I written down. But before we finish this video, I would like to share with you my one favorite thing that I do every single year. And I've recently seen Jessie Corin talk about that as well in one of her videos. But besides that, I've honestly been doing that since I'm 15 or something, and it has really, I think I'm not lying here, it has somehow changed my life. And so the thing that I'm talking about is writing a letter to yourself. I do that at the last day of each year, and what I would do is I would just sit down and write. I write as I would write a letter to a friend, which honestly feels a bit weird in the beginning, but you will get used to that as you write. And doing that, I don't ask myself any specific questions. I don't have a routine that I go for. I just go for what I'm feeling. And I would typically write about what happened in the past year, how I had changed, what has changed in my life, and then I would go for what I am hoping for the next year, what I want to achieve, in what direction I want to go, how I want to develop as a human being, all that sort of stuff. It has been so interesting to go back to these letters. For example, this year I will pull out the letter from the end of 2021. I will read it and it would just give me such a clear picture of who I was 1 year ago and who I am now, and that just really clearly shows development to me in a way that is pretty natural. Also, it's kind of nice to go back to the letters from my 15-year-old self that was struggling with a heartbreak so much, and being older now and seeing, well, you get over things, and even if it feels like you can't get over it, you will. Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing, and I would highly recommend you to try that out, even if it sounds weird, but who cares? It's just for yourself and it's such an amazing thing to do. Try it out. So that's it for today, guys. I hope that this video was somehow helpful to you, that you got inspired by it, that it has some ideas that you haven't heard before. And yeah, let me know how you like this kind of video, if you would be interested in seeing more like this on my channel. And if you stick till the end, I'm very thankful for that. Yeah, and I would also really love to know what you do for reflection or setting goals. If we share that in the comments, we could inspire ourselves even more, and that would be pretty amazing. So that's all I gotta say, I guess. I hope you had a good time here, that you have a good time reflecting, setting goals if you do that, and that I see you in my next video. Bye! Words. We talk about New Year's resolution and goals. If you see me... My laptop is doing weird things. See... Yeah, and not see. So then there's... What did I learn from achieving those goals? Girls. You achieved girls, congratulations. I have to do that again. Going in that. Let's drink something. How do I say that? Even if it's in just a really the self-help books. That is such a tongue twister. And I discovered that the self-help books doesn't really... Holy shit. Did I say that good? I just keep doing that now. That's the thing. Alright, bye.